I can hear you. In three, two. I'm Charles Durant. You see this picture up here? Right? Yeah. That picture was in 1967, and that was the first play I ever produced at this school. Okay? I was 20 years old. My life began in New York City. My father was in the record business. He owned a record company. And I became a musician at a very young age. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take off my jacket, because it's hot. And so I was a musician. I learned to play everything. I went to recording studios, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. It's my father. You went with your dad. And so somewhere in about the 4th grade, I started playing my first instrument, and then went up from there to the point where I could play just about everything. And the finale on all that was I got a music scholarship to Juilliard. Anybody ever heard of Juilliard? Yeah, I got a scholarship to Juilliard. So when it came time to go to Juilliard, I didn't want to go, because people who went to Juilliard ended up being great musicians. I thought somewhere in this world there had to be something better than that. I didn't know what that was or what better would be. But I wanted to do something else. So I graduated high school in 1965. My father said, well, if you're not going to Juilliard, you got to get a job. And I went, oh, okay. So in the New York Times, there was a job listing, a posting for mailboys. Mailboys, right? What's a mailboy? I mean, boys get a mailboy, and this was at CBS. I have a CBS ID card here, which I'll show you when Travis comes in. And so I got a job at CBS as a mailboy. And I delivered the mail. This is what I did. I was a mailboy. And there were a bunch of us. And if you did a really good job, you got your own floor, and you got to be part of an organization. I ended up being part of CBS Sports. And it was one of these things where you didn't know how far you were going to go doing this, but you knew you had to go far, and you didn't know why. And I should tell you, I have always gone for the things in life which are the most challenging. If it's the most challenging thing, I'm there. I'm going to do it. Because I'm 71 years old right now, and what I would tell you is that your life goes quickly. That's 51 years ago. 52 years ago. So, and that's how quick your life goes. So take the challenges. Don't walk away from the challenges. You find out how good you are by the challenges you take. And you're not going to win everything. You're going to lose some things. And when you lose, guess what? You'll learn more when you lose than when you win. That's an important thing to know. But you can't be afraid. You know, I tell people, look, people have fear of winning. People have fear of losing. I don't have fear of anything. I overcome it. You overcome your fears. And great success is by overcoming your fears, by fighting through them. Some people say, well, if I really do a good job, I'll have to do a good job forever. It's too much pressure. Folks, I would remind you, you're here to be successful, not to be a failure. So you gotta push. You gotta push yourself. It's what you have here, it's what you have here, it's what you have here. And you have to fight for things. So, here I am at CBS in the mailroom, and I got promoted. And I went to film shipping. Film shipping. There was not a lower job at CBS than film shipping. In those days, everything wasn't live all over the country. And so what you had to do is you had to, they made prints. They made 16 millimeter black and white prints. And we would see them, they would run live on the network, and then people would get them, or stations would get them on a 7-day delay, 14, 21, or 28. So it would like go from, we'd take this print and we'd send it to Watertown, New York, and then it would come back. And then we'd send it to Ottumwa, Iowa, okay? And then that would come back and we'd send it to Agana, Guam. So I'm not sure there's a worse job than doing shipping prints, okay? But it paid more than the job I had before. We got an hour for lunch, which was terrific. CBS during those times, in the mid-60s, had lots of live shows, which were done live. I mean, this is live stuff. This is not on tape. This is live. And I found one particular show I liked called Secret Storm, and I started hanging around there. Now, as long as I had my CBS ID badge, which I'll show you in a few minutes, nobody said anything. Well, what I should do is back up and tell you, in high school, I was the lead in the senior play. I was also the drum major of the marching band. When I found out that I couldn't play football, because I had no talent, ability, and 2 left feet, there was no choice but to, and I'd always been a musician, and I also had an injury. I blocked a kick in practice. You can only imagine what that was like. So when I woke up in the hospital with my helmet on my chest, I knew kind of my football career was over, but the, Travis,
Yes.
Put up the CBS picture, please, the ID card, thanks. And so, when the band director came to see me while I was recuperating from my surgery, he, right there, there it is. Okay. What? Oh, stop it. Hey, I had hair, but I had no money. I'd rather have money than hair. Write that one down, please. Including the ladies, all right? Okay. So, here I am at 18 years old, and I looked like Vince Edwards. I looked like Dr. Ben Casey in those days, okay? And so, and you'll notice I'm wearing a nice jacket. And I was a mailboy. No one else dressed the way I did. Everybody thought I was a young executive. There was a Michael J. Fox movie where he dressed like he was somebody and everybody thought he was. Well, I had a guy in the mailroom who ran the mailroom, and he was dressed in, he looked like a count or something. I mean, he was incredible. Watch this guy. And I said, so where do you get your clothes? He goes, well, they're lightly used. I said, how lightly? He goes, it was called Gentleman's Resale. And it's still there today on Madison Avenue. So I went and I bought all these clothes. Well, nobody thought I was a mailboy. Everybody thought I was somebody else. I got lots of respect early on. Clothes do make the man and make the woman. Is there anybody in here who doesn't understand that? Okay? Now, y'all are supposed to be the smartest guys and women on the campus. Is that correct? Would you agree to that? Right?
Yes.
This is a smart group of people, right? Dress for success. You don't dress for failure, you dress for success. You're hoping somebody will notice you because you look so good that maybe they'll do something. Maybe they'll put an arm around you and say, well, you're not allowed to put people's arms around you anymore. But maybe they'll put a mental arm around you and say, I want you for my assistant. Okay? That's an important thing. So here I am at CBS, and I'm dressed like whatever, and I'm in, okay, so I'm going to the recording, so I'm going to the studios, and Secret Storm was a soap opera. It's not around anymore, but it was for years. And so I go to Secret Storm every day. I learned to eat in 5 minutes, which I still do, which is not great for your digestion, but it's wonderful for your learning, okay? You have to push things along quickly if you want to really move in life. So I'm sitting there in the back, and you know, after going for a couple of months, I knew everybody. I knew the directors, the producers, you know, and one day I walk in, and everybody knew me, and how are you, Charles? How's lunch today? I haven't had it yet, you know, afterwards. And sometimes I didn't eat lunch, which compared to look at me now, you would go, what, you missed a meal? So one day, they have a problem. They're sitting there, and oh, this is the people, and this is going to be a live program in 3 hours. You get 3 hours to solve this problem. We had cameras that didn't have the zoom lenses. Those were first used in sports. We had 3 or 4 lenses in the turret. We had a crane camera. They had a scene which took place in a town square where people walked in, said something, walked over, said something, walked over, said something, and then said something here, and then walked out. Personally, if I were the director or the producer, I would have killed a writer for writing something that complex. Because, number one, you don't have much time to do it. However, less than 2 years earlier, I had been the high school drum major. Now, I don't know, any of you high school drum major? Yes, no? Where? Okay, right? Did you get to write the shows or not? I wrote my shows. And I wrote the shows and I wrote the arrangements, so I did it all, okay. And so, if you could give me the most complex design in the world, and I could figure out how to do it. And in those days, we didn't have computers to do it like you do today. We had accounting paper. Oh, okay. But the point is, if you gave me something I could put into a show, I could get music that would run with it, 8 steps to 5 yards, which is what we used. And all of a sudden, and I thought, so I raised my hand and I said, I have a solution. And everybody looked at me and went, like, it's like all of you looking at me. It's like they looked at me and gone, you're the film shipping guy, what do you know about this? Well, a couple of years ago I was a drum major, high school marching band, and this is very similar. Do we have some music we can use that's kind of light music so everybody can hear the tempo? Yeah, we have that. Okay. We can't use a crane camera because you'd see everything. We managed to borrow 2 more of those up microphones. These microphones were, you stood up and you moved it around, and it was just out of visual, okay? So we got a couple of those. And then we, bit by bit, put this together. And I was directing it. They weren't directing it, they were just watching what I was doing. And so we got it into a thing, and I said, okay, I think this will work, and let's start the music, and let's walk it through. So we started the music, and we walked it through. Now, we're dealing with professional actors and actresses. These people are the best in the world on the soap operas. These are not inexperienced, these are people who are experienced. They got it in one rehearsal. And no one was more shocked than I was, believe me. Because if you stand up, you better have to stand up for a reason. And you got to stand up even if you fail. Anyhow, so they ran it once, and it worked. They ran it again, and it was smooth. And I went, oh my God. Because then the professional director came over and took over, and he said, let's move the edge this way, let's try this. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm learning. I'm teaching, and I'm learning. That's the first time that's happened to me. And so, I worked in film shipping, as I told you. So we had the prints. We got all the film prints. Kind of do. I was young, energetic, and I could produce, direct, and write. I could do all that stuff. So, and I got the job because I said, will you give me a summer job? And they said, no. I said, how about if I save you 10% of your earnings? And they said, we're listening. We're listening. Well, to figure out how to save 10% of their earnings, I had to get their books. How many people are willing to let a graduate student look at your books, okay? But I said, I've got to look at the books. Otherwise, you know, how am I supposed to do this? And I ended up signing a non-disclosure agreement. Okay, the first of many. And so I looked at the thing and I went, oh yeah, come on. This is pretty simple. We reschedule a bunch of different things, and all of a sudden your costs for cameramen are about half of what they were. Problem is they couldn't implement it, and they couldn't tell anybody because the cameraman would have killed me. But they gave me a job. So, and it was involved doing all sorts of things. I mean, they had a noon show, and we had a deal where if you wrote the best letter, we'd give you a puppy. And somebody wrote this letter, so I can't make this up, and it was about 100 miles from Nashville. So myself and the person in charge of PR, we take this puppy and we drive out to the middle of nowhere, literally the middle of nowhere. And we have to go to the sheriff to take us there. So to talk about crazy things that happen. So we get there, and the letter said, my sister is blind, and she wants this puppy, it would mean a lot to her. And then at the bottom it says, she signed, there's like a scroll, she signed it herself. And we should have gone, no. People who don't have, who are blind don't sign letters. But we didn't. And so there we are. And I've got, this is going to be on television tomorrow, on the noon show. And so I have a Bolex camera, and I'm supposed to shoot some video. So I'm thinking about, how am I going to shoot this so she looks blind? Okay? Seriously. So that's the kind of stuff you had to do. Anyhow, so I guess a few weeks later, I get a phone call on a Saturday afternoon. And it's the general manager, his name's Tom, and he calls me and he goes, do you have a suit? I said, yes sir, I have 5 good suits. He goes, be at the Ryman Auditorium. The Ryman Auditorium is where Brenda Lumpy is. I said, yes sir, what am I doing? He said, Ralph Emery is ill. you're gonna do the applause part. What? What do I do? He said, somebody will tell you. So I get to the Ryman, and here's one of these things where you don't know what's gonna happen. I'm standing there with a suit, and when it's time for the audience to applaud, I go, it's time to stop, I go, okay? I'm a fairly well-educated guy, but this was what my job was for that night. And here's how I changed history. It had always been at the Grand Ole Opry that they played their songs all the way till the end. And then the applause started, and then you went into commercial. You with me on this? So you played your whole song. Porter Wagner played his whole song, and when he was done, then the applause started. I cannot tell you for the life of me what made me do this, but I could hear, because I had all this country and western stuff from growing up, I could hear when a song was going to end 8 to 12 bars out. So I started the applause 8 to 12 bars out on these songs, which meant when the song was over, there was no applause to be had. We just went right into commercials. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't ask anybody. This organization has been around since 1925, and I just decided on a whim that we should do this. And nobody said anything. Everybody smiled, and I'm thinking, you know, there's a very good chance I can get fired on Monday morning. A very good chance. So I go to work on Monday morning on a little cubicle, and I hear coming down the hall the manager's secretary, who was, we called her one of the clackers. And she said, Mr. Griscom wants to see you right away. Oh, man. Okay, this is the end of my career, I'm thinking. So I go to his office and I sit down, and he had, in those days, people were into intimidation if you were in power. So his desk was a little raised and a little tilted forward, so he was always looking down at you. Interesting. And he said, have a seat, sir. He said, this is for you. And he slides this envelope across the desk. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is a pink slip. And I just left it there a moment and said, open it. So I opened it, it's a check for $25. Now, $25 doesn't sound like much, but in 1971, $25 was not bad. It was a little bonus. I said, thank you, sir. What's this for? He said, I don't know. We never had as many commercials as we did on Saturday night. What possessed you to do this? I said, it just made sense to me. Maybe because I was an outsider, it made sense. Because all the people have been doing it the same way for all those years. Anyhow, so that was one of those things. You talk about a defining moment in your life where you change something. I mean, and I knew all the people because they were on these shows that we taped 5 nights a week. So they'd come in, and by the way, if you ever think you want to be a musician, it's a terrible life. These guys would go out for 5 weeks. They would come in, and one night we would do 3 shows, 3 30-minute shows. The next night, 2 30-minute shows. They were off again, okay? Hard life. But those are the kinds of things, and sometimes you come up with that would have been my great idea of my life, actually. And when I was graduating from Vanderbilt, they wanted to hire me, but nobody knew what to do with me. They said, we can pay you a salary. We'll pay you a competitive salary. We don't have any idea what to do with you, where to put you. I said, not a problem, I have a job. So I joined Merrill. And in 1984, I was privileged, and I mean privileged, to go to a seminar run by Dr. Marty Cohen. You can look up Marty Cohen, Cohen Brown Management Company in Beverly Hills. Marty Cohen convinced Merrill Lynch that he knew more about making us big producers, great salesmen, than anybody else did, to the tune of Merrill Lynch paying him $25,000 a day, 1984, a lot of money. There's only 50 of us in this class, and I was one of them. 2 years later, I achieved that goal. And because Marty liked me in the class, and because I participated in class, and because I smiled, and I raised my hand, and I was part of the class, he asked if I could come again, free. I'm the only one who ever got to do that twice. So when you're in a class, be interested, raise your hand, smile at the person who's speaking, okay? And you never know what good things may happen to you. Getting to see Marty Cohen twice was the most miraculous thing that ever happened to me. And yes, I went on to win all the awards, and I did the most you could do, and this, that, and the other stuff. And all of that because of the Marty thing. Now, I want to go through a few of the Marty things with you. Just because I think it's important to have my phone in my hand.
Are you looking for your phone? I haven't.
20 people in the business department came up with Travis Kruger within 24 hours. So the next week Travis would come in, and he's doing really well. It's 5 years ago. Yeah, it happened real fast, right? Now he has a house and a wife and a child, so it happens quickly. So I get to Vanderbilt, and my first day of class, I'm sitting next to the nephew of the president of South Korea. His name is Yu Chung Park. And Yu Chung has a dictionary of math to, I'm sorry, not math, English to Korean to English, English to Korean. And I'm looking, what's up on the board? What is that? I'm looking for that language translated into English. So quant, that was called quant. Quant was the first thing. The second class was computers. In those days, it was basic PLC, timeshare, all of this stuff. It was primitive. We used the cards, it was batch processing. And I read both the syllabus. And I was a guy who'd been married a week. And I was afraid I was going to fail out of school. To the point where I had a backup plan. Ann Arbor, the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, started the week after Vanderbilt. So if I failed in the first week at Vanderbilt, I would have to tell my wife of a week. We'd have to pack up and drive to Ann Arbor over the weekend and get there because school started the day after Memorial Day. Okay, you see how things happen in life, right? But you gotta have a backup plan. And I was lucky I had a backup plan. And so, at the end of the second course, Quantum and Computers, I went, you know, maybe somebody could teach me computers and that might help me with quant. So I went to the computer center. Oh, by the way, anybody want to know what these are? Everybody's curious, right? Okay, this is about $6,000 worth of pens. These are Mont Blanc, these are the finest writing instruments in the world. In honor of the kid who had the pocket protector. It's funny though, but these are great find. I love to just take off my jacket and let people come up and ask me what are these. And people do. I've met lots of people and got lots of clients from this. So something we do that sometimes makes you a little bit different. Okay? You're a little bit different. You're a little bit better. What was it? Oh, Ann Arbor. Okay, so thank you. So I'm at Vanderbilt, and I'm at the computer center, and I said to the guy who was a doctoral student, I said, if you can show me how to do this, I'll buy you lunch. Okay? Anybody ever been to White Castle? Okay, White Castle, right? Okay. In 1970, at White Castle, you could get 2 hamburgers, which are about this size, 2 hamburgers, French fries, and a milkshake for $1.05. Okay? He taught me about computers, got me up and running. It cost me $1.05. Talk about an investment, right? Well, but I still wasn't home. I had to figure out a way, and so I could pass graduate school. I went to see the dean. Igor Antsov was like, he was absolutely brilliant. And Vanderbilt in those days was experimental, and we were on a pass-fail. There were no grades. We would pass fail. But we tried all sorts of different things. We tried modules. So module was the time it took to make you, give you great expertise in a subject. Some modules lasted 2 years. Some lasted 2 weeks. Okay? And it was just incredible. Well, I went to see the dean and I said, look, I think we should use computers to teach quant to those of us who are the soft heads. If you were humanities, you would call it soft head. And I said, you know, obviously the honor pledge holds, and we have to do this, but we get some publicity, and it's the right thing to do, and it's timely. And he said yes. He said yes. It was the most remarkable moment in my life, up to that point in my life. Because had he said no, I wouldn't be here today. I would have had to go to Ann Arbor. I probably would have been on Broadway in Hollywood or something. And all of us would have never met, right? Okay. And so they're defining moments in your life. But we went and taught, usually the faculty comes with an idea, they pitch it to the dean pitches to the provost. In this particular idea, particular set of ideas, the dean liked the idea, pitched it to the faculty who liked it, the provost loved it, 48 hours they changed curriculum. So I was at my 45th reunion a couple of years ago in Vanderbilt, Nashville, Tennessee. And it's interesting what we all look like 45 years later. Actually, I have a picture, but I won't show you. It's bleak. But, and I was the second youngest in my class. But one of our professors, who was a math professor, was only 6 years older than I was. And he came up to me, and he always called me Charlie Boy. And he came up and he said, Charlie Boy, changed any other organizations like you changed ours in one day? And I said, yeah, actually, Merrill Lynch and Bloomberg. Other than that, not much. So I made it through graduate school. Coming out of graduate school, it was all sorts of job offers. But the two that were the most serious were Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch. Merrill Lynch said, you could go anywhere. Goldman Sachs said, New York only. And so I joined Merrill Lynch here. And I spent 35 years at Merrill Lynch and won all the awards and did all this stuff and, you know, all of that stuff. And went independent, which a lot of people have done. But I did this about 11 years ago. So if there was an award to be won, I won it. I figured out a way to do it. And you will too. Once you know what the awards are, once you know what the metrics are, once you know that you get paid very well for doing things, you'll do it. Okay? Now, I want to go back to the Grand Ole Opry. Good. Anybody ever hear of the Grand Ole Opry? Yes. Okay. So, 1971, I'm at Vanderbilt. I'm at Vanderbilt summer, and I'm working for WSM, AM, FM, TV, and the Grand Ole Opry. They owned all of them, and they were in turn owned by National Life of Tennessee. And so I was kind of their golden boy for the summer. Whatever projects needed to be done, I directed Weekend News. I worked on the Porter Wagner, Del Reeves, Jimette Brown show, good old national music, did all sorts of stuff. So whatever they needed, I could kind of do. I was young, energetic, and I could produce, direct, and write, and do all that stuff. So, and I got the job because I said, will you give me a summer job? And they said, no. I said, how about if I save you 10% of your earnings? And they said, we're listening. We're listening. Well, to figure out how to save 10% of their earnings, I had to get their books. How many people are willing to let a graduate student look at your books, okay? But I said, I've got to look at the books. Otherwise, you know, how am I supposed to do this? And I ended up signing a non-disclosure agreement. Okay, the first of many. And so I looked at the thing and I went, oh yeah, come on. This is pretty simple. We reschedule a bunch of different things, and all of a sudden your costs for cameramen are about half of what they were. Problem is they couldn't implement it, and they couldn't tell anybody because the cameraman would have killed me. But they gave me a job. So, and it was involved doing all sorts of things. I mean, they had a noon show, and we had a deal where if you wrote the best letter, it went to New York. And so, but I'll tell you something about, I'll pull up the 1954 picture. That's the one where I'm, yeah, right there. Yeah, that's it. Okay, see this kid? I was 7 years old. It was born in 1947. My father had a program called, we moved from New York to Alabama. My father had a program called the Alabama Jamboree. It was a country and western show which competed against the Grand Ole Opry. Okay? Which was, it's a good word, futile, okay? It took my father a couple of years to lose all his money. But I would rehearse with the show band, guitar, bass, drum, piano, steel guitar, drums. And so I would sing Yellow Rose of Texas or other songs. Now, you can see from this picture, I was a little kid, right? With a black bow tie, and you could hand me a microphone, and I had a good, nice little soprano voice. Well, one night, we're in the middle of the show, and this was in Birmingham, Alabama, and my father comes to me and goes, "Our last act is not coming tonight." I said, "Okay." I mean, I'm 7 years old, right? And he said, "You're gonna be the last act tonight." And I started crying. I was 7 years old. I started crying. And my father walks over to me and he goes, about this far away, "If you don't sing, I will put you in your room, I will turn out the lights, we will not feed you, your mother and me will not come see you, and you will die alone in your room." I was 7 years old, right? So, clearly, if you said that to your kids today, they might call Child Protective Services. Maybe. But in those days, nobody did that. So I said, I'll sing. And since then, you can't stop me. I don't sing anymore. But the point is, I've never been afraid of anything after that. And there are defining moments in your life where something pushes you and changes you forever. And the thing about it is, you don't know when it's happening. You only know when it's afterwards. Okay? So here comes the second part of that story. 17 years later, I'm a graduate student at Vanderbilt. You know what? I'll come back to Vanderbilt in a moment. I came here in 1967. It was Baptist school. I was a Jewish guy from Brooklyn. Are you kidding me? When I got here, I had just taken the Evelyn Wood Reading Dynamics course. Anybody know what that is? How many of you are ever taking a speed reading course? Okay. How many of you want to now? Okay? If you do one thing, you take a speed reading course. You must do that. If you can process data faster than anybody else, you will win. And folks, this is a war. We're in a war. And we're all friends now. But you know what? We're competing. And whoever's the smartest, the brightest, the quickest, gets the work done the best, wins. So you can either be running the country or running the company. 5% of people run the company. The other 95% are really good at making coffee and copies. And it seems a shame to waste this much money to do that. Okay? So I come to UCC, but before I came here, I took this Evelyn Wood speed reading course. So when I got off the plane, they handed me the catalog. And you guys know about catalogs, right? Right? You graduate under the catalog, you come in under it. So the catalog, and I speed read through it, and I went, no. I have to be wrong. I got that wrong. I read it again, I went, this is back to school. There's no dancing. There's no drinking. You have to go to chapel once a week. If you miss 3 chapels, you're out. You have to take Old Testament, New Testament, and contemporary Christian thought. Those were the courses you had to take. And there were a few other things. And it's like, what am I going to do now? Okay? So I made a decision that I didn't want to spend 4 years here. I wanted to spend 3, or maybe 2.5. I wasn't sure. And so I came here at the end of the summer, and but I had been here long enough. I took a course, political science and something else. I like voice and diction and political science. And so I got a couple of A's, and I impressed everybody with my speed reading, because I was like a featured, SEAL, okay? I'd say, ask me to speed read, and I do this, okay? And people go, wow, that's pretty good. So in the fall, I decided I'm taking 21 hours. Well, no one had ever taken 21 hours before. And if you worked at registration, which I did, by the way, if you get a chance to work on things that can help you, do that, okay? Do that. Because sometimes you meet the right people and you get the courses, you get the right courses. And the other thing is that sometimes you end up being first in that course, and first sometimes means an awful lot. So, I get to the end of the line of registration, and the dean says, "Are you the reader?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're signing up for 21 hours." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "No one's ever done that before." I said, "That's one of the good reasons I'd like to do it. Because no one had ever done it before. I wanted to do it. If you want to be first, and you want to be best, you have to be way out there. And you don't want to fail, so you really have to work hard to get there." So, and he said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. Come, thank you. Come to my office in an hour. I'll give you a test. And if you get 80% or better on the test, you take 21 hours. Otherwise, it'll be 18. And I said, "Okay, fine." So I show up, and history was a history professor. And so I show up, and history was the thing I enjoyed most in those days. And I already knew all the stuff. He asked me the book. He said, "Start reading." And I started reading. He said, "Okay, stop." And then he asked me the question. I got them all right. But I would have gotten them all right because I knew that information I needed. And so sometimes you're more prepared than you think you are, but you should always be prepared for anything, particularly if you're young and you have fertile minds. Whatever it is. So, okay, so I get to take 21 hours, and then 19, and then summer school I took 18 in. And all of a sudden in the fall, I'm a junior with 62 hours. First one to ever make it from freshman to junior in 1 year. Okay, you see where I'm going with all of this? Okay, my life is a thing of first. So then, okay, I produced, directed, and wrote shows here. I have a degree in speech and a minor in English. I wanted to go get a Master of Fine Arts in theater. And I got into Iowa, Nebraska, North Texas, Michigan, and I didn't get into Yale. I applied for Yale. One of the worst days of my life up to that, I went to the thing in New Haven, the interview, and I felt like I was, like the janitor. I had no idea what they were talking about. You become what you think. Everybody say that. I become what I think. Could there be anything else that's as important as that? If you think good thoughts, if you think success, if you think wonderful things are going to happen to you, if you want to change the world in a terrific way, you can make it happen. You become what you think. You can alter your fringes, but not yourself. By that, I mean shine your shoes, wear a nice suit, wear a nice dress, wear high heels. Those are fringes. That's not who you are. That's just the fringe part of you, if you will. The first step to change is awareness. You have to be aware of who you are, what you are, your weaknesses, your strong points, and how much you want success. Everybody talks about being successful. So why was only 5% of the people successful? Clearly, there's a disconnect between I want to be successful and I am successful. Okay? I choose to be great. Write that down. Choose to be great. You can choose to be anything you want. Why not choose to be great? Why would you choose to be average, mediocre, or part of the crowd? Everybody knows. So all of you are honors, right? Honor students, right? Okay. That's a smart group, yeah? Okay. So everybody knows what a bell-shaped curve looks like, right? Okay. Think about this for a moment. 60% of these people, 60% of the people are in the middle, right? 40%, 20%, 20% are below, and 20% above. So if you want to be the best, you got to knock out 80% of the people to get there. And then you're just competing against yourselves. An important thing to think about, okay? You can choose to be great, but you're already great. You're already in this class, okay? And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Look well, dress well, speak up, shake hands. Shake hands with people.
here's something, total financial independence. Whether you know it, realize it, or even think about it, it is your objective in life. What are you working for? If it's not to be totally financially independent at some point in your life. That means you can retire and not sell your house. Focus works, fragmentation fails. Ooh. Okay, see this light up here? Right here, right? Okay, not a lot of light, not a lot of heat. I can buy a Fresnel lens. You have any scientists in here? Fresnel lens, okay. Put it right there and burn a hole in the desk. It is focused energy. Focused energy. Focus works, fragmentation fails. It kills you. It takes your best resources and splits them up. Folks, you need all the focus you can get, all right? All the focus. I use a technique called time locking, so does Travis. Time lock is, I can't go at this intensity for more than 90 minutes. After 90 minutes, I'm like dead. But that's okay, because I do all my business and do all the stuff I do, and then I can relax a little bit. The time lock is 90 minutes of intensity. You can go pedal to the metal for 90 minutes, and then stop, do something else, and then come back to it the next day. The core of your motivation is your dream. It's your dream. What do you dream of? What do you want to be? I'll take 5 people. Raise your hand. What do you want to be? Any 5 people. Go.
I want to be a district judge.
Whoa. Congratulations. Next? Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I want to be a clinical pathologist.
Wow. Okay. Wonderful. You?
An army nurse.
Not a nurse, an army nurse.
An army officer.
Yeah, so you want to carry a gun? Just kidding.
That's one of the perks.
That's a Texas one. I'm carrying my gun. All right, somebody, 2 others. Go ahead.
I want to work for radio as a radio personality.
Say that again?
I want to work as a radio personality.
Okay. I've been on public radio for 37 years, 4 times daily. I've been on the radio 39,000 times. Do the math, okay? I've been on Jim Longo's show, and I'm on Bloomberg Radio as well. So yes, it's a nice thing to aspire to, but you've got to be smart at everything, because when they ask you a question, you have to be able to answer it. Okay, and you?
Not a student.
Yeah.
Not a
But-
student.
But I work here and
Right.
I'm an AV geek. I'm kind of living my dream here of having my hands in technology every day
Wonderful.
and pushing things.
Having your hands in
forward.
tech. Very nice. What about you?
My goal in life?
Yeah.
I would like to travel to every country.
Okay, all right. How many countries are there?
233 if you include territories.
Perfect.
Wow.
Yes. Good for you. What about you?
I want to be a trauma nurse.
A trauma nurse, okay. You?
I want to be a manager.
Of people?
Yes.
Manager of people?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because if you're a manager of people. Not just manager, but manager of people. And things and resources and blah, 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 all of that stuff. What about you?
I'm a marine biologist.
Very nice. You?
A teacher.
Pharmacist.
Okay.
I don't know about a career, I'm just trying to make my family proud.
Okay, here's
I
what
don't
I would
think
say.
that far ahead.
Here's my suggestion to you. Write this down. Strong vocational aptitude test. Strong vocational aptitude test. Write it down. You can get it online. It tells you what you have interests like.
I've taken one of those.
Okay.
I think for the most part, it's general business and finance.
Okay, good, good. But this will help you. A lot of people graduate college, get into terrible careers, take this test and find out, oh my God, I should have been a high school history teacher. Okay? You, yes.
I want to be a lawyer.
Okay, just what we need is one more lawyer. You know what, no, I didn't even tell that joke. Go ahead.
I want to teach English in another country.
Teach English in another country. Seems to me there's some people in this country who need English as well. So, go ahead.
I'm not really sure.
I'm not really sure. Strong vocational aptitude test. You.
I want my own construction company.
Good, okay. Somebody wants to build things. Good. And you?
I want to work for a company called Qterra and sell medical equipment.
Okay,
I want to be a geosciences researcher.
whoa, okay. I decided who's a geologist. Okay, geologist. Baylor and Stephen F. Austin, masters in geology. Works for an oil company in San Antonio. Young lady?
I want to be a marine biologist.
Okay. My
project manager.
project, okay. This is my dear friend, Dewey Fong. Dewey's from Vietnam, and should be in this class, because he's a brilliant guy. And, thank you. Dewey's running one of the cameras today. Yes, ma'am.
I want to help them achieve their dreams.
Very good. You?
I want to be a teacher.
You?
A professional actor.
Okay. As a guy who's written, produced, and directed a lot of stuff, and in a moment I'll tell you, what time is the class over?
You got 15.
4:45.
Okay. Say about my Broadway experience next, okay?
Lawyer.
Lawyer, okay,
I want to be a neonatal nurse.
okay.
I want to be an environmental citizen. Environmental scientist.
Two? Okay, do you know each other?
Yeah, we're in the same.
Okay, all right. Who did I miss? Yes?
I wanna own my own research and rescue.
Wow. Okay,
I want to make reforms in education. Reforms in education, like be a teacher.
okay, all right, okay.
Surgeon.
Surgeon. What's with the back row back there? This is an interesting group. Okay, then, go ahead.
I want to be a nurse practitioner.
Good.
Haven't decided, but I don't know if I want to.
Strong vocational aptitude test. Next.
A marine veterinarian. Marine veterinarian.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
Oh, I want to teach technical theater after I traveled on Broadway.
okay,
Veterinarian.
all right.
Trauma surgeon.
From a surgeon, all right.
I want to be a famous photographer.
Famous photographer, good,
I want to be a physician's assistant.
okay.
Dream, musician, college, clinical psychologist.
That woman. Violinist, yes, everything, yes, okay. All right, so in 1976, I'm sorry, I moved to New York. I got promoted by Merrill Lynch, so I moved to New York. I took the job because I wanted to produce a lot of music. So, what you do is, you go around at night, you go to backers auditions, you meet people, you do all sorts of things. I optioned a play, which is what it's called, you option a play. And I optioned, the first one I optioned, I didn't get anywhere with it. Second one, I got a little bit farther. There was a lady named Dixie Carter, who was gonna be my lead. Robert Alda, who started on Broadway, was gonna be my male lead. And Jerry Adler, anybody ever watch Sopranos? Sopranos? Okay. The guy who plays the part of Hesh, that's Jerry.